Aries, this is your family reading. Please keep in mind that this is a general reading, and this will not resonate for every single Aries out there. All right, let's get started. So what are my Aries dealing with when it comes to family and family matters? Okay. We have silence. So Aries, for some of you guys, you could have been taught at a young age to keep quiet. You also could have been a person that people would tell their secrets to and didn't want you to say anything. You could be just a really good person at keeping secrets and stuff. But also I was sensing too, as a child, growing up, you were probably taught to be quiet and not talk a lot or not yell or, having to be just like a very quiet child. And because of that, maybe this could be stifling you guys now, impacting you. Oftentimes when, our childhood shapes us and grows us to be who we are, it's just why home and family life is so important. Not so much because of necessarily like family is forever or anything. It's because that's where we came from and that's how we view ourselves. So I guess let's pull some cards and kind of see where my Aries is at when it comes towards family. So here we have the Five of Pentacles, the Seven of Wands, and the Nine of Swords. We have the Death card, the Fool, and the Three of Cups. I like how there's death and like new beginning is like right there, side by side. Then we have the King of Cups, the Queen of Wands, the Knight of Wands, the World card, and the Three of Wands. The Five of Wands, sorry. And we have the Wheel of Fortune as the bottom of the deck, so the shadowy aspect. So for a lot of you guys, growing up, you could have always felt kind of left out in family. You could have always felt like you were always alone, or even not only that, but also just having to be there to defend yourself, because for some of you guys, you could have been dealing with a household where people would just pick on each other, and it was almost like a dog-eat-dog world. And now that you're out of that, you feel calmer as a person, Aries. You might not think that it really affects you very much anymore, because what I'm sensing is for some of you guys, you have been and is still working through some of these issues. But it's like, again, I keep seeing that Death card next to the Fool. It's like you're having a death and rebirth cycle happening for you guys, and it has to do a lot with your childhood. For some of you guys as well too, you could have found justice in your your home growing up. Perhaps as you got older, maybe there was a parent that maybe apologized or something for something that has happened. But I'm also sensing for some of you guys, you're finding that closure within yourself. Because for some of you as well, I'm just sensing that some of my Aries, maybe you were silent for so many years about something that was bothering you. But it's now starting to affect you, or now when you do speak it, it feels like a relief for you. But I kept sensing that for some of you guys, you were like the person that kept the family secrets. I don't know why, I just keep sensing like, you knew what was happening a lot of the times, but you guys kept it secret because family members and other people trusted you or told you to keep it a secret. And so you did what you were told, maybe too. We have here the Five of Pentacles, so kind of feeling alone, kind of feeling a little stuck. I feel like for most of your life, probably feeling like you were the one that just never quite fit in. And perhaps too, you just never talked very much in the family. And because of that, you never got the things that some of your other siblings might have gotten too. And it all due stems to not communicating that. Because for instance, say if one sibling was like, oh, I want this thing and I want that thing for Christmas, you might have been the kind of person that was afraid to really tell people what you wanted. Because you felt like, and for some of my Aries that I'm picking up on, it's primarily due to the fact too that you didn't really want to be a burden, or that you really didn't want to cause, like you didn't want to be perceived as selfish or needy, because you all, like I kept sensing, like you almost felt so misplaced in the family that it's almost seemed weird to, almost put yourself in that position. So like for instance, if your siblings would play and stuff and you guys are around the same age, you might always feel left out, or you might always felt like you always had to play the horrible parts of the game. If you always had to be either the bad guy, or you always had to be the one that got like needs to get rescued, or you know what I mean, like you just always had a role to play in the family. And it always kind of left you feeling a little defensive there, Aries, because it felt like no matter what life had to give you, it almost felt like you always got the short end of the stick when it came to the family, when it came to even your siblings. And you're saying, oh, I'm older now. I mean, whatever, it doesn't really affect me. But like deep down, a part of you wants justice, a part of you wants recognition from the home that you deserve things too, that you deserve to be seen and loved. And with this cycle, what's happening here is I feel like for some of you guys too, you could have been in relationships with other people where they could have taken advantage of you, or they could have pressed your boundaries. You go out into the world though, and you almost feel like a sense of not really belonging, but because you are kind of a quiet person, you're kind of maybe afraid to stand up for yourself, but you're learning to drop the burden because you no longer want to move forward with people and places and things that don't understand you, because you grew up in a home where you felt very misunderstood, Aries, and because of that, it caused and shaped you to be one way, or to perceive yourself one way. And now that's the cycle that you're ending, and now it's like the new cycle that you're beginning. You're starting to see things in a more brighter way. You're starting to reevaluate your emotions. And for some of you, although you might not be necessarily communicating this with other people, you deep down know that you're going through some form of some kind of transformation. And, being around people that you care about and wanting to get love and support at this time is kind of important for you guys. And what's horrible for some of you guys is you really want these people, like your family or your friends, to offer their hand and offer support, but they're not, because what's happening is for some of you is you haven't let go of the pain and being afraid to ask for help. And it's like that's keeping you guys kind of stuck, is having to ask for help, because somehow in your mind as a child, you felt like you couldn't ask for help, or you felt like you couldn't ask for things that you wanted because you felt like you were never going to get it. And it could have been too because maybe as a kid, maybe you wanted something, but your other sibling got what they wanted, but then your parents are like, oh, that's too expensive, or, oh, that, we're not going to get you that. Why would you think that we would get you that? And it's like they put you down in some way, Aries, to where now you feel like you can't really ask for help. And that has stifled you in some form or another. And it's because you feel trapped in that childhood. You feel trapped in that past situation with your family. And you're having to let it go to an end. But what's happening too is for some of you guys, you're now having to find what it is that you actually truly want, because for some of my Aries, you don't like to think, it's almost even hard for you guys to even maybe perhaps think about what it is that you want, out of the fear of being rejected, or out of the fear of it not manifesting, because you're having to heal through that thought of having to fight off your other siblings or fight off your family, because here we have that 7 of Wands again. But it comes back down to mirroring to yourself that perhaps you've always felt like you've had to fight for what it is that you've always wanted, but yet at the same time, you don't really fight for it, right? Because in your mind, it's like it's not worth the fight. But at the same time, you're defensive and you're willing to fight. It's a very interesting feeling, because it's almost like they're two contradicting parts of you, Aries. And I think that that's why it bothers you, is because it's almost like you guys have suffered in silence all of these years, and nobody knows that you've experienced pain, or that you experienced all these things. And you might even have your siblings, Aries, even say, yeah, you know, Aries did get the kind of the short end of the stick there, you know. And it's because you always kept silent, you always kept quiet, you never really vocalized perhaps your needs, because you could have always just been a quiet kid. I'm getting, and this isn't going to be for all of my Aries, so just keep this in mind. I'm also getting that for some of you guys, you could have had like a wisp, or you could have had some kind of speech impediment that maybe you got made fun of a lot too. Or maybe you guys could have been that type of kid. You know, I love my nephew, but he has this tendency. He comes up to me, he's like, oh, hey, so, this happened the other day, and this, and he would just say this, or say one word like 10 times, and I'm sitting there like trying to be patient, but it's like, it's okay, kid, spit it out, right? So for some of you guys, you could have had that or something as a kid, like maybe something like, maybe you got made fun of for the way you spoke, and so that's another reason you kept quiet too. Maybe that's another reason some of my Aries never really vocalized very much. But it's like needing to now allow other people to carry things for you, allowing other people to, like, you know, talking to people and telling people how you feel, because people might not really know how you really feel. Especially here when, you know, you could be this type of person that could be flighty, where you don't put in that work, you don't put in those emotions into certain situations, and people just think maybe you just don't care. And it's not that you just don't care, it's because perhaps there's some things that you're just too afraid or too uncomfortable to talk about. And when you're out in the world, you look like you're doing fine. Everybody around you thinks you're just doing fine. But what's happening is you're having a hard time really letting go of that cycle. You're having a hard time really letting go of that part of you in the past, because you identify so heavily with being the odd one out, being the one that you have to fight for the things that you want. You have to fight to survive. It's like, you know, you need to, you know, it's like that child that's wounded, and you're having a hard time dropping that cycle. So here we have the 5 of Wands. So putting down the idea and the notion of feeling like there has to be that choice too. Feeling like you always have to have a choice between not having conflict and being trapped, when really in reality you don't have to be trapped, and you don't have, like, you know, it's almost like for some of you guys, some of my Aries, you might think that if you were to start an argument, then you would be trapped. If you didn't start an argument, then you would be somewhat free in a way, right? Because for some of you guys, you might be afraid of, oh, there's a hummingbird. There's a hummingbird outside my window. It is the most beautiful, oh, he's just staring me down. That was so cool. All right. So for some of you guys, you know, you really could have that tendency of really holding yourself in that contentment to where you're keeping yourself stuck. Because if you could tell both of these imageries, it's like they're both blindfolded. They're not going anywhere. Because for you, it's like you don't want conflict, Aries. So saying nothing might be considered good for you, but learning, like, that's kind of the issue though. It's so weird. It's like I feel as though I'm trying to contradict myself every other sentence, because it feels like you do want to open up, you do want to communicate, but at the same time you don't want to do it because that leaves your comfort zone. But at the same time you do want to do it. It's kind of a mess, it feels like. And it's because you're trying to find your happiness. You're trying to figure out what it is that you really want, but you're not seeing things for what they truly are. And you're not really working with people if you can't really communicate. So you need to tell people what it is that you're willing to commit to. because that's when the magic happens. That's when the tower moments can happen. That's when people can start to understand you better, and that's when you can start communicating. Because for some of you guys, you want to say something, but you're afraid of how people react, and you need to drop that, because deep down you're so afraid of how other people are going to perceive you. But at the same time, because it's like you don't want the conflict, but you also need to learn to let go of being secretive, because people might look at you, Aries, and think that you're very secretive because you don't really say anything, you don't really offer much, maybe you don't really ask siblings for help, or maybe you don't really give very many siblings a lending hand, maybe because some of them feel like you're almost unapproachable. You can kind of come off unapproachable, Aries, and I think it's just because of feeling hurt in your childhood and in your past. You know, that could leave some of you guys feeling a little bit worried about preserving yourself, right? Keeping yourself safe. So for some of you guys, not saying anything at all was considered safe for you. You guys could have been like considered the invisible child, maybe. But you're a very complicated person deep down, and oftentimes a lot of people might not really understand you because you seem to be so complicated. Here we have the High Priestess of Fire. So using that intuition, using your using that fire within yourself too, because when you think about it, when an Aries wants something, they can go after it. And oftentimes Aries don't let other people stand in their way. They're just the go-getters, and they're the ones that just like have energy for days, it seems like. But what's happening though is you don't even know what it is that necessarily, some of my Aries don't really know exactly what it is that they even truly want, which is why it's hard, because it's like you have all of this fire inside of you that wants change, that wants to be accepted and be loved, but at the same time you don't even know what vision you're holding. You don't even know what direction you really want to go in. And the issue too is, you know, you have so much beauty and love to offer people, Aries, but because you keep yourself so stuck, because you don't trust yourself, or because you put yourself in situations to where again, you're not really telling people, you're not really communicating with people what it is that you want. Probably because growing up too, you might not have ever really known what it is that you truly wanted, because you always listened to what other people wanted, or you always did for others. And now it's like, for you guys, you're having to do what's best for you, and you're having to find what's best for you, and that takes time, and that takes a lot of growth. A lot of you guys might feel very unstable too with some of the decisions, or even what it is that maybe some of you want to do, you know. And maybe a lot of my Aries, I feel like too, are kind of working in silence, and maybe other family members might not be aware of exactly what it is that Aries is up to. So here we have visualization, imagination, focus, experience, and manifestation. So again, having to figure out what is your vision, and having to come up with the parts of you that like having to work on that third eye and really envision what exactly it is that you want to go, and where you want to head, in what direction. And the reason I think that you have a hard time setting a vision for yourself is because your root chakra is out of balance. So they always say that the root chakra is the most densest chakra. It is the lowest chakra of the 7. And it resides in your tailbone, kind of in your like lower pelvis area. And oftentimes they say that your base, or your root chakra, is what gives you direction in life too, because that's what keeps you solid, it's what keeps you grounded in this physical world. So for some of you guys, because maybe you needed to get your needs met, or because maybe you got you felt unstable or unsafe in your childhood home, that has greatly affected your root chakra, and that's why you need to strengthen that root chakra in order to work on your visualization. Because they always say if you have a blocked root chakra, you have a blocked crown, and your third eye is definitely most blocked, because your crown and your root are so connected. And then here we have physical health. So we have vitality, strength, body image, and balance. So for some of you guys, your physical health might be really a big issue or a big concern for you right now. And maybe you guys are keeping kind of quiet about that because maybe you don't want to make other people worry about you. Maybe you're so afraid of how other people are going to take the news. But something that also comes to mind too is when you're not taking care of your physical body, your root chakra will suffer too, because that is your body. That is essentially the carnated flesh of who you are. And so for some of my Aries, you're having to learn to take better care of your health, take better care of yourself, but you're having to do it in a way where you might have to break that silence, or you might have to communicate with those around you about your health concerns. And it's okay, even if you are nervous about it, to maybe let others know that you're struggling at the moment, especially if you're stressed a lot, and maybe if other family members or other people can take that burden away from you, that would help. But what I'm sensing too is the things that we discussed and some of the stuff that we talked about during this reading might have actually contributed to some of your health issues. If you always feel like you were that you always had to fight for your survival, if you always felt like you could never speak up and truly be safe in your environment, or you always felt like you were always rejected and unloved, that can take a huge toll on your health. That can take a big hit on your self-esteem and on your immune system. And you're having to learn to build back up your immune system. So being careful and more conscious of what you're eating every single day, being more careful on what you're doing. And for some of you guys, even focusing on just taking better care of your physical body is going to help correct that base chakra, your root chakra, and that will help you find what it is that you're really needing to find and where you're wanting to go in life. So that's what I have for my Aries. I hope that this resonates for you guys. I hope that this helps you. Good luck on your health journey and anything else that you guys may be experiencing. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great and wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.